Hey, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, and welcome to this edition of ClarITea Chat. I seem to have a bit of a network problem on my side, but I'm hoping that you guys can hear me okay. So, this is the 36th episode of ClarITea Chat, and thanks to all my audience all over the world for the encouragement, engagement, which keeps it going. Now, today we have Arvind Sivaramakrishnan with us. Hi, Arvind. Welcome to ClarITea Chat.
Hi, good evening to you.
Hi, good evening. So, as we all are aware that healthcare is a highly regulated and critical industry where timely information is literally a life and death issue. So, to know how technology transformations in healthcare, today we have Arvind, the Group CIO of Apollo Hospitals, the hospitals that have touched more than 120 million lives in 120 countries. Oof, oh my God, I didn't know that much. Offering the best clinical outcomes. So, the ClarITea Chat session brings out the case studies, learnings, and principles. With Arvind being a veteran of healthcare IT, we'll be learning the art of managing healthcare technologies through his own experience and case studies. His experience ranges from Ramco systems to Covansys, which are system integrators, before joining Apollo Hospitals as a CIO 11 years ago. He's an expert in setting up large multinational, multicultural delivery systems, synchronizing physical and virtual business processes of the organization. And the chat with Arvind will cover how he revamped and rebuilt the electronic record system for a US healthcare institution while the regimes were changing, from Bush to Obama era. We all know about the Obamacare. How infusing technology in the care delivery has become more meaningful for scaling up healthcare, and how he and Apollo are helping the vision of a society of great doctors with augmented intelligence, transcending geographical boundaries. In simple words, telehealth. Plus, I'm sure it is not that simple, Arvind. Hospitals are also people-intensive organizations, and any technology initiative is bound to come up with change management challenges. So we'll discuss the art of change management. Arvind has also been through M&As, so we'll discuss that too. And we'll also discuss a little bit about telehealth and, how do you manage the infrastructure and technologies and operations behind telehealth. And of course, we'll end the chat with a rapid fire round and then a reverse question. So, Arvind, before we start talking of serious things, let's have a bit of a fun start to our chat. Please share your fun story of joining Apollo, where both of you guys had a wow on both sides.
Well, fun story is very thing. So I got this call from my boss saying, "I understand you were looking for some opportunities, and how do you like to be part of Apollo? And like honestly, that itself was first get yourself clear. Do you know whom you're talking to, so that you quickly get yourself aligned. And the beauty of it was the first question that or the first condition that was put in was the job will be challenging and all of that, but you'll have to work in Chennai. And I'm like, wow. Chennai is my hometown, and I'm somewhere there in the US looking to come back to India. And somebody telling me you got to work back in your hometown. So instantaneous yes. Chennai anytime. I know. Not sure many of you will agree with Chennai anytime as a thing, but I'm a Chennai guy. Thing completely brought up here. So somebody offering me working back in hometown anytime. So that was that really summed up why I accepted coming back here. Difficult to refuse options.
No, absolutely, and I think the bit of that apologetic nature was that coming back from US, would you rather want to be in a city like maybe Mumbai or a Bangalore, and not
Absolutely.
Chennai? And I think that was a good
You know,
match on
in
both
a time
sides.
where the IT is making rounds, and that time it was Bangalore versus Hyderabad. Everybody talking about the great things going on in Hyderabad, and obviously Bangalore, most spoken of as the software capital, and lots of growth happening in Gurgaon side also. So with these three going on, and somebody telling you got to go back to Chennai. Automatically you expect somebody to kind of frown or say Chennai is it and all that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Arvind, thanks for sharing that. That gets us on an energetic start. Even though my video is not as energetic, I can understand. So, for everyone out there, I'm actually in the process of relocating tomorrow to Pune. So, I've got my house packed, and I think in the process, there's something happening with my network. But I'm told that the voice is fine. So, guys, please don't mind the video. In fact, I'll be switching off the video in between, and I'll let Arvind hog the entire screen. But wait for that. Let's really get started now. Arvind's philosophy, which inspired me, was that the speed of information is very important. In fact, more important than anywhere else in healthcare. The information gets stale very fast, and it's literally a matter of life and death. And I think we'll hear from him as we go into the session. So, as far as our audience is concerned, the analytics that we get from LinkedIn says that we have CXOs, founders, IT managers, technology managers, project managers, technology sales, a good variety of, I would say, serious stakeholders joining this chat here with a common agenda, which is learning the art of finding success with technologies. So before going ahead, I would request our audiences to share their name and where they are joining from in the comment box on LinkedIn or YouTube. And maybe after a couple of questions, as I and Arvind get a little boring, we'll get it exciting with pulling your names up. But then thanks again, everyone, for attending. And I should also say thanks to all the people who watched the recording. Because what I see is that within 24 hours of the chat, we have 10 times more people, who have watched it compared to the people watching live. So let's begin the session. Arvind, let's begin with a quick recap of your childhood. When you were a teenage, did you ever dream of making a career in technology? Anything that pulled you towards technology?
Well, I am from a army background, so dad is an army officer. I've been through discipline. I've been through following good rules. I've just been a good student. Trust me, I've never thought of making a career in technology or or wanting to be one engineer. Just went with the flow. Honestly, it'll be unfair for me to say that these were thought of right from the childhood, but went with my flair. So where I thought I would feel more comfortable, where I thought I was a little more, at ease with my comfort of my knowledge and my ability to learn also. So that's really what took me into an engineering background. I spent all my schooling and my college life in Chennai. So always been a Chennai guy, and that's more aligned towards mathematics and science. So that was my logical entry into engineering. Uh, More towards maths and physics, and so that's kind of why I pursued physics, and then I pursued electronics engineering, and got me into a career where I was looking at defining and using technology for making differences in various practices, and that's really how it took me into getting to all these through years.
Okay. So I'm just experimenting, trying to increase my video as well, as you can figure out by putting you on the spot with a solo spotlight. So
Yep. God, suddenly looking at yourself. Yep.
yeah, I can understand. But bear with me. I'm trying my hard, and I can try it actually because you're speaking. You're doing most of the speaking. So Arvind, now let's get to a bit of a career overview before we start diving deeper into some of these experiences and driving some insights. Please share with us your different stints and one memorable incident, or one highlight from each of the stints. So just to give everyone overview of your career, companies, places, and one big highlight.
Uh, right after college, I joined Ramco Systems, and Ramco Systems is India's very famous ERP company. And in those days, that was the company that was making ERP and making lots of eyebrows raise with good design. They looked at the Windows technologies, which was at that time flourishing, and the moment I joined Ramco Systems, obviously I did all my training there. And one fine day, my boss called up and said, "There's a small assignment in Kuala Lumpur. It'll be a short assignment, and we'd like you to go there." Young guy out of college, somebody sending you to foreign, immediately your eyes glow. You think you're in cloud nine, and you don't even think before you say yes. I think the yes came out, and then you only realize what did you say. So absolutely yes, I said, and so that was my quick move outside the country, and that short assignment really ended after 4 years only. And once I went to KL, I was there, and fortunately, my boss there, his name is Venugopal Reddy, and then there's another person by name Yasin Malik, who's Malaysian there, and of course, a very good mentor of mine, Narayan Shankar. All of them took great care of me. I like the place. So that's kind of how I started my career, with really good mentors who took a lot of interest in me in grooming. So a lot of what I'm learning today and what I'm able to deliver today is always because of the good advice, the good grooming that Narayan Shankar, used to call him NS, Yasin and Venu imbibed in me, got me to learn. They spent a lot of time shaping me up. So thanks to them, and spent a lot of good moments there, finding solutions. That's where I started learning. It's just not about technology, but it's about trying to put technology, trying to find a solution to solve a business problem. And that's really where my roots were, in terms of looking at technology not because it's stylish, but because it's actually solving a problem. And I really learned at that time that it is not about the grandeur of the solution. It's really about it can be really simple, meaning it can be in a notepad or an Excel or something like that. but it's solving a problem. That's really what makes the difference. So that grounded me a lot, because I was thinking everything has to be big, uh, written very complex, everything has to have a massively huge algorithm, should look super intelligent and all that. So that was some fantastic learning. From there, I moved back to India. That's when I joined Covansys. And in those days, a big IT company doing a lot of onshore offshore work. And that is when I got into a wonderful outsourcing initiative called Henry Ford Health Systems. And Henry Ford Health System is one of the largest health systems in the Michigan, very famous, built with class of clinical quality, patient safety, fundamental, excellent governing principles of how health systems run. And that's when they were outsourcing all their initiatives. So was the time when outsourcing was a big deal, stuff moving from US to India. And this is where we had to take the staff of the Henry Ford Sting IT, make them as part of the outsourced company of Covansys, and still function as Henry Ford Health System IT. So here I am, my paycheck coming out of Sting Covansys, but have to behave like I'm a Henry Ford employee. That means you've got the best interest of Henry Ford, and you're not thinking of how do I look at a comment, or how do I look at a client relationship. That's when you put yourself in the client shoe, and then you start functioning as them, and you wear that hat on, and it sounds really different as you're behaving and functioning for them, like them, in them, completely imbibed. It's a very different way that I learned in how you can look at solutioning, how you can look at managing business there. Obviously, at that time, I used to take care of other projects. I used to take care of a couple of projects in Japan also. So I was literally following the sun. Even though I was young, it was tiring. And I did request my Sting managers at that time to find some sort of a more aligned place than follow the sun. And they did tell me to move to Detroit. So I moved to Detroit and started operating the whole Sting clinical applications portfolio of Henry Ford Health Systems as part of Covansys. Later, it became CSC and all of that. Lots of it was actually, when I joined, it was CBSI. So CBSI became Covansys. Covansys became CSC. Lots of company changes. Same employee number. That's fun when you start moving across and you still have same numbers. And it was functioning between the United States and India, with my staying with my role as being a clinical applications portfolio director, and also one of the prime advisors to the CIO at that time. And it was also a difficult period in the economics of the world. That's when the whole economic downturn happened in the United States. The whole Fannie Mae downturn, which really plumbed the economy. The whole auto industry went going down, and being in Detroit with the auto industry going down, you start seeing a lot of stuff that really make a difference in terms of how businesses run, how business should be run and should not be run, for sure. And that's the time I spent close to about 10 years there. And then was, like what I said, a fantastic call from India that said, are you thinking of coming back to India, and do you think something like this will happen? And that's when Apollo happened. Absolutely delighted to be here. Spent 10 years with Apollo, and always feel young about, always feel we've still got more and more and more to do. Love being in India. And it was, Jagdish, this is the thing also where my career moved from being part of an IT industry, system integrator, solution provider, to being the other side of the table, where you are expecting solutions from the industry. So that was a good change for me. When I say good change, I must be honest, it took some time to get myself aligned, because you're completely on different shoes now. So that's really my career span of what and all I did soon after college.
Yeah. So, Arvind, let me ask. Let's go a little deeper into setting up this multinational, multicultural delivery in Covansys. Especially for this Henry Ford HS. You also mentioned to me that, when this in 2008, when the entire industry was going down and Detroit was like, becoming a graveyard, even then you guys managed to scrape a profit. So tell us about that experience of, how do you set up that kind of delivery? What are some of the, what do you call, principles you used? And I guess you have a couple of mentoring stories from there. So
Oh
very keen
yes,
to hear
absolutely. When it was a difficult time in the economy at that time, and this is when there was tremendous leadership shown by the executive management of Henry Ford Health Systems. The CEO at that time was a very capable and able leader by name Nancy Schlichting, and our CIO was Arthur Gross, and my own boss at that time, the senior director of the whole IT portfolio, was Jack Malloy. And also we had a fantastic leadership from the chief operating officer of Henry Ford Health System, who and all of them took very keen interest in technology and quality, and his name was Bob Riney. And this is when you start looking at outsourcing, the first aspect that all of us made sure we imbibe in is getting aligned to the culture and getting aligned to the multicultural. So it's not just about us embracing the culture of Henry Ford Health System, and to a certain extent, Indians embracing a US culture also, because lots of delivery people come from India. So that nationalism of different countries and different people needs to be there. And being a multi, national company, we had some of our colleagues from from Russia. Some of our colleagues were from Brazil. So we had different cultures of people also, and that's so the first part is getting yourself as a team and respecting each other's background and figuring out how we can work together by respecting each other's lines of thought. And this is a very personal way of looking at things. And when that happened, automatically we gelled very well as a group that was able to take on problems, figure out how. And when I say take on problems, we were in a very, very legacy environment. In those days, our database was not even an RDBMS, it was a DBMS, it was called Tandem, built on a mainframe technology on non-stop SQL. Fantastic technology, never goes down. And I say never goes down. Tandem was the back end of our electronic medical record in those days. And if you remember, the whole East Coast had a power shutdown at that time. Once in 2004, 2005, there was a massive power grid breakdown in the East Coast. And still, because this was non-stop SQL working, and it had its own hardware and the batteries and all that, and it kept running through that period of about 36 to 48 hours. That shows the resilience of some of the technology of the yesteryears. It's just not that mainframe is old and this is new and all that. Some of that is fantastically resilient, lots to learn from and enumerate into where we are going also. And at that time, like I said, the economy was going down, the auto industry was down, Chrysler was down, Ford was down. In fact, Ford's shares came down to $1.98 also at that time, that low, and
Yeah.
all of them
Yeah.
were looking at the government for bailing them out, and the whole retired workers of the auto industry and their benefits going down. Very bad state. And Michigan, being the heartland of the automotive industry, was obviously feeling all of that. And still, Henry Ford Health Systems, and at that time all companies were filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The
Yeah.
focus that
Yeah.
our leaders showed on quality, the focus that they showed on aligning quality to processes, Six Sigma processes, elimination of waste, powering processes with technology, and bringing the right mix of the human element of healthcare delivery and the power of technology for automation, that really helped firm up the delivery of healthcare and not allowing the economy to bring down the quality of healthcare. And why? Because you're serving a life. And our leaders always told us that, remember, Whatever you do, it's a life at stake, because your application is directly touching a life and your solution is touching a life. So that level of maturity was imbibed into all of us, and we also learned very well from our leadership at that time. and and that's when the balance sheets came out. Henry Ford made a profit, if I'm not wrong. I think it was about $72,000 or $80,000.
Wow.
Anybody with basic sense of money will say $80,000. You guys call that a profit, and you're feeling proud of it? Yes, definitely. When the entire industry was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, when the largest industries were going to the government for bailout, and their share prices had just plummeted to $1 and less than $1 also, at that time, going above the zero mark and showing profits, and keeping the organization without retrenching or removing anybody's employment, without shutting down any business, functioning with efficiency and growing. And that time we even opened up a new hospital in West Bloomfield, and opening a new hospital also. That really showed that the partnership of technology with quality, with processes, with the human element of ensuring that we take our teams into all of that, all this coming together and focusing on growth, focusing on business profitability, but at the same time ensuring that the core ethics of, and Henry Ford Health System's tagline was patient first. Ensuring that that patient first tagline is not a tagline but a culture in every solution that we do. And that's where technology really gets into actual business, and technology gets into the culture of how a business functions. That really made a big difference in terms of uh, us figuring out how technology works, and solutions also. So absolutely enjoyable in terms of how all of that spanned out.
Oh, that's awesome. Has my video improved a little bit, Arvind?
Yes, your the shaking of your mouth and the voice, they're making sense now.
Oh no, I was feeling really embarrassed, especially with my audience, and so what I did was, as you were speaking, I switched off my camera and then actually changed my browser. So there was some problem with Chrome. Right now I'm on Mozilla, because the speed test was showing pretty okay in terms of speed. So in fact, now I can even feel the difference, the way your image is coming here and all that. Now I still have a problem that the viewer comments are not showing up. So all of you who are watching out there, I maybe it was a problem with uh, Chrome to begin with for me, but as of now I can't see your comments. I don't have LinkedIn open right now, so I can't watch your comments. I anyway can't bring them on the screen. So apologies for that. I mean, I can't. It's really like, it feels like, talking in a blind room without being able to see faces and say hi to them. But anyway, let us continue the conversation. I think it's a really interesting conversation. So I think, just to summarize, Arvind, of course, I was a little distracted trying to improve my video. But I think what you were talking about is, like, the operational excellence and, the lean mindset that was there. Um, and while everybody was going bankrupt, you still managed to scrape a healthy $80,000 profit. Uh,
Absolutely.
that's commendable. So, and it also says that, like, that even in healthcare, even in, let's say, that kind of a relatively back office kind of function, you could still use principles like Six Sigma and all, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of place for bringing quality in processes, bringing quality in delivery, lean, Six Sigma. It brings in a fantastic way by which you can look at business process reengineering, and
Yeah,
that really shapes solutions very well.
yeah, absolutely. So, Arvind, another interesting, facet of your career, which I think our audience can benefit from, is that you spent many years in system integrator ecosystem. Okay, and we all deal with them. We sometimes struggle with them. We sometimes succeed with them. So, tell us some inside stories of how SIs work. What are those one or two good things about them, and what are one or two things where you kind of need to keep your guards up, or where they may need your help, and you need them for your transformation. So how do you best leverage them for transformation?
Yeah, I think as long as the system integrator is putting themselves into the shoes of the client, uh, and it's difficult. And why I say it's difficult to the system integrator, the moment he gets into a business, he starts looking at, okay, what are my avenues of profitability? And it's the right, the line of thought is right. So then they start looking at, okay, how can I, you know, direct the customer into a direction of my profitability? Because you got, when I say my profitability, there are certain sweet spots as a system integrator that you're good at. So how can I start talking to the customer and convincing them to go into what I want them to do? And the moment I get them to doing what I want them to do, obviously, one, I can definitely make profits, but at the same time, my delivery will be good. And you're driving them into your sweet spot also because your delivery will be good. Good lines of thought. Uh, and this is sometimes where the marriage starts becoming a little sore, because the customer now starts thinking that why is this guy always talking what he wants to do and doesn't seem to be listening. So I think the biggest part of it is for system integrators to listen and understand really what is the problem statement of the customer or the client, and then figure out how they can align their core skills, or how they can bring on their augmented skills. And it's no surprise or thing that when these system integrators don't have talent of their own, they look for staying subcontracting some of that, and it's fine. That line of thought is not wrong at all. But alignment. So the first part is success is there when the system integrator is putting themselves into the shoes of the customer. And by doing so, the customer also is spending time in understanding their system integrator, so that the customer or the client is really aligning with the system integrator on their sweet spots or their best talent, rather than asking them questions in areas where they may not be good. And where in areas where they may not be good, the client can probably go for somebody else, as opposed to challenging somebody in a direction where that's not his best delivery point, that's not his best capability. So this sort of mapping of the mind between the system integrator and the client, I think, is core to one, mutual respect. Second, formulation of solutions that benefit from the best knowledge, skill, and delivery capability of the system integrator. Because we also know sometimes during sales cycles, I shouldn't say sometimes, I don't need to be that polite. Most of the times in sales cycles, we oversell. you know we oversell, we say these are our capabilities, and we unnecessarily paint a larger than life picture of our capabilities, leading the delivery teams to pick up all these words and figure out what happened and what did you sell, like which practice, you start and you start thinking, oh, do we have that practice in our organization, do we have that skill at all? You start thinking, but you can't blurt that out loudly, because it's already been sold and the client is telling you some stuff. So
Correct, correct.
it does happen. Let's not think. Again, I won't fault what you the various techniques. It's just that you need to know your limits. But when you start bringing that, and being on the other side, it's also good for us to understand the system integrator, Obviously, it's for us to be mature, to remove the fluff out of the real stuff, and start working with the system integrator in their area of skill, in their area of expertise. Rather than, I've got one system integrator, let me get the entire world out of the guy. So that mentality of the client also, of, I don't know, for the lack of a better word, sucking everything out of the system integrator, I think it's not healthy. Better to keep people in their sweet spots, in their area of expertise, and now suck everything out of them. Because then you're putting them in a place where they are capable of, and you are also capable, you also know exactly what you want, and you're talking to an expert. So that mix is a good mix. So that's really how I see, both sides of it, and having had the opportunity to be in both sides of the world, I think those are learnings in terms of how you function from both sides. The biggest aspect of it is how you learn to respect the other side, and how you work with them in a difficult situation, which is clearly not desired. Many a times it might irritate you to the core, but you still need to find a way out of it, and then bring it to a normal. First, you got to find a way out of it, and then bring it to a normal. You unfortunately, we just can't jump into the normal, and the normal could be sometimes even parting ways, because
so I think just to summarize, and also tap into some of my experience also. Right in the beginning, you said something which I want to develop a little bit. You said that the SIs need to understand the customers more. They need to listen more, and we know that the mode that they are in, which is starting from themselves. So it makes sense to actually make them listen. That is, brief them. Brief them. Tell them the organization context. Tell them the organization dynamics. Tell them where the pressure points are going to come. Tell them which stakeholders are more powerful, which ones are going to, which ones are more savvy. Okay, and prepare them to deal with your organization, because once they come in, they will deal with a lot of stakeholders. So it's good to give them a lot of contextual information, which makes them feel more like an insider. So I think whether they listen or not, I think it's our job to talk and and make them understand.
I've told a lot of people, don't be surprised that my organization can be more dysfunctional than yours.
Correct, yeah. And no, but I think the other thing that you talked about is, let's be reasonable with each other. Let's be respectful to each other. Let's be empathetic to each other. And we all must understand that everyone will have a bad day. Sometimes it can be you, sometimes it can be us. And if one beats the other person up, then the other person will get their chance as well. So let's make it a more like a partnership rather than rather than a partner of money and talent. Yeah, but very good points there, Arvind, and it clearly shows your balance of experience on both sides. Meanwhile, we have a question from Amarinder. He's asking, we have been told that healthcare IT has been traditionally fragmented. Is that so, and how is the healthcare IT evolving today?
Hey, hi, Amarinder, and I hope I'm talking to the same Amarinder of the CIO Club fame.
It's the same, yeah. So actually, I figured out. Sorry, I figured out that I just went into my LinkedIn and I see a lot of comments here, but somehow that integration with the streaming tool is not working. So guys, please keep sending your comments. I'll be reading from my iPad. And I think what my teammate has done is, he has copy pasted Amrinder's comment from LinkedIn to YouTube and asked. So that's why it's showing in my login. But please go ahead and answer.
So Amarinder, really, I think I won't go directly on healthcare IT is fragmented, and the reason I'll say why is it's been evolving, and it's been looked at as each area of the healthcare delivery. So there's the revenue cycle, then there is the ancillary systems like the lab, the radiology, the pharmacy, then there is the outpatient, there's the inpatient, then there is emergency, then there's the operating room, then there's surgical. And it's a little bit of a Western philosophy that each is an application by itself. And thereby it starts becoming a spider web of integration between these various applications. A mindset and an architecture of the West, it's still followed in the West, decreasing a lot. But if you look at it from the East, particularly from India, we see healthcare as a whole. We see healthcare as a complete delivery of the operational elements of healthcare, the supply chain elements and the financial elements of healthcare, and the clinical elements and the patient touch point elements. So in India, we see a much more holistic way. So I would not say healthcare IT is fragmented, but I would say that it's the way by which people have been looking and approaching the solution. And the more you look at it as a whole, it becomes. And the reason why people have not been looking at it as a whole is sometimes the scope of what you need to do becomes so mammoth that you start breaking it out, and that's kind of why people feel something is fragmented versus not. But how's healthcare evolving today? I think multiple elements, efficiency elements of the back office of healthcare, the delivery systems of healthcare or the supply chain of healthcare. That's one element. Efficiency elements of the clinical part of the healthcare, which more often than not people call electronic medical record. That's another part. And then the whole aspect of the customer and staying in touch with the customer, which is the PHR, the patient health record, the patient facing, how you are in touch with your consumer. So I won't call it CRM, don't mistake me, but it's a type of a CRM because it's a customer relationship management in a healthcare nature. Okay, not going verbatim on a CRM. Okay, so that element of it, and even more so because today's consumer is becoming more and more literate, thanks to Google. I won't comment more on that. Uh, may not be the most appropriate comment. So
All doctors complain about it.
so I'll refrain. But the consumer is aware. It's our responsibility to make the consumer literate in the right direction. Okay,
Yeah.
awareness is not necessarily literate, and it's our responsibility to send out that positive communication on education, on the state of health, on the state of well-being. So that's that part of the consumer automatically expects. And the biggest part when you're asking how's healthcare IT evolving is you're dealing with a life. So that anxiety is there. That anxiety has to map with maturity because that's what you're dealing with and that's the expectation. It could be a simple common cold, but when I get common cold, trust me, I bring the roof down, right? And all of us do. And you are expected. That's your consumer expectation. So how do you deal with it? So healthcare IT now with the mixture of digital technologies, social, mobile, analytics, cloud, IoT, thing, augmented reality, virtual reality. I can go on and on all these. All these solutions have a fantastic place in healthcare delivery. They all need to come together. They're not in isolation. So please don't think that each can have a life of its own. That's a mistake. Each can have a good connected life, delivering fantastic outcomes for healthcare. So health IT, very exciting.
Yeah.
Absolutely vibrant.
Yeah.
Right place
So
to be.
So Arvind, I'll interrupt you there. I still have a lot of stuff, and I have my iPad right in front of me. So I'm going to be reading from this a little bit. So we have Sandeep Batra joining us from Germany. He joins us regularly from there. Sorry, guys, I can't bring in the comments here. The LinkedIn integration is not working, but I'm reading it from here. Amarinder says, hello everyone. First of all, gratitude to entire healthcare industry for what all they have done for us, especially during the recent times. Then we have Gitanjali Ramachandran. Thanks for the session. Meeraj Vashi, he joins us regularly from Bangalore. Good evening, Jagdish and Arvind. Then we have Pramod Sonmale from Amazure Technologies. Then, yes, Amarinder asked that question. Pawan Roy from Kolkata, Prasad Bhujbal, Sarita Bhatt again from Bangalore, an old colleague. And then we have Rajan Singh Negi. His designation says Maverick Enterprise Solutions Architect. Oh, that's interesting. And we have Dr. LABH Singh and yeah. So quite a few comments. Let me see if there's any other question here before we go on to my questions. Okay. Yeah, so Dr. LABH Singh is asking a question to you, Arvind, and if you can make this a quick answer, can Arvind speak about how blockchain can help in healthcare services in coming 10 years?
I think blockchain at this point for healthcare, and this is my personal view, is pretty premature. But definitely, I see that blockchain has a good part to play in particularly the patient health records, where we can link records and make a better thing. But at this point in time, honestly, I would say that blockchain in healthcare, uh, we're still in the very, very early stages. So I'm not going to be very, very uh, vibrant or gungo about blockchain in healthcare, but I think we need to try a couple of options. The theory is there. We need to make the practice work.
Sure.
So I'll be a little guarded on what I see as the future of blockchain in healthcare.
I agree with you. Now that we are like talking about the new technologies, so here's my next question to you uh, on the buzz, in the healthcare industry, which is around, Dr. Watson being able to tell you what kind of cancer diagnosis is. So let me come to the question itself. How do you get the AI, cognitive, and machine learning to the front line of healthcare system? Tell us your experience, Arvind. In terms of successes and challenges. One example of a success and one example of a challenge in bringing AI/ML and cognitive.
I think our success with AIML at Apollo has been fantastic. We've worked very closely with Microsoft, and we've done a very good cognitive learning AI ML algorithm around cardiovascular risk score, and looking at cardiovascular risk patterns, particularly in this part of the world, because all literature really has data of the West. So we'll mind our own data of the last close to about 18 years, thousands and thousands of records that we mined, and made cardiovascular risk scoring. Um, so the challenge there is, first and foremost, the problem definition. Second, getting our data and training it to the algorithm. Next, working through your algorithms and going through the false positives and getting to a predictive level. Doing enough work to do the retrospect analysis, because your algorithm has to generate stuff, and then using the retrospect analysis, check if the results are matching. So literally, we ran through samples, where went through it, sat with the clinical experts and checked if that was their diagnosis, that's what the outcomes were, and then do prospective analysis. So I think uh, there's quite a lot of challenge in getting the data science, getting the algorithm fine tuned, working through the false positives, ensuring that you are consistent in the success levels of the predictive algorithms, working with clinical practice to ensure, and this is where very strong partnership between data scientists, the technologists, and the clinical teams, and making sure that what we prescribe is part of the clinical routine. So I would like to call it augmented intelligence than artificial intelligence, because it aids the clinician in making better decisions. It doesn't replace anybody for anything, and that's something that people always have to understand. So, do we have a future for that? Definitely, yes. It is not a silver bullet. Can I get something out tomorrow? Can I get something out in 3 weeks' time? Absolutely not. It takes time to curate a problem statement, learn it, make it learned, make the consistency of it, weed out the false positives, do your analysis between the prospective and the retrospective, ensure that your success rates are good, they're measured, and then you run your trials in terms of this. Make sure that it is falling in line with clinical recommendations. And now bring in the art of program management in compressing the time schedule and making it as fast as possible. But don't approach it as I can write. This is not a software program. It's a
Yeah.
software program guided with intelligence, so it has its period of incubation. Make that as
So,
fast as possible. So
yeah.
that's
So,
really
so, so yeah. So now as you try to bring it into mainstream, what is the biggest challenge that you face in bringing AI into the mainstream of healthcare?
uh, the first part is getting people to trust the results and the outcome, uh, because people are scared of something being sent out by a system, and they obviously question its efficacy and they question its fundamental credibility.
Yeah.
So it means that you need to curate it with good quality data, and you need to curate it with a good sample of data. It cannot have a bias. If your data
Yeah.
is having a bias, your results are going to have a bias. So you really need to have a bias free, good expanse of data. You need to have a good check at your algorithm and the nature of false positives. And
Yeah.
this is where you need to work with your clinicians and get them to start believing it. And that's why I said augmented and not a replacement.
Yeah. So Arvind, now I come to this question. I recently, I mean, actually, quite a bit of last year, I was visiting hospital every week for a family member's treatment, and I saw that how little technology is used by staff and how much paper is wasted. Now, hospitals are massively people-intensive businesses, and managing change is tough. And you just brought out one element of that change is that, like, if the doctor has made up his mind that, hey, these are the symptoms and this is the problem, and let's say your technology assistance tells him that this is something else, it can become an ego issue, right? I mean, no, I mean, my experience or like this, yes, tomorrow's technology, right? So that brings me to a much larger question, which is in any people-intensive business, is the change management. So how do you make technology happen at the last mile, at the nurses and at the clinicians at the OPD level? And how do you basically manage change? What kind of steps do you take there?
A simple thing I would say, partner in crime. Okay. So
Very nice, very nice, very effective. Yes.
see, change management is when we are looking at it like we are solving our problem. So the moment you approach this as I have technology and I'm going to come and teach you, you know, uh, they're not going to listen to you. Look, I've been taking care of patients for years, and my patients are doing well. So don't come and give me gyan. So, and let's not approach it as I'm bringing in technology to emancipate you because you've been doing everything wrong, and here I come, the technology messiah, waiting to rescue you from all your sins. That's a fundamentally flawed way. So approach it as a collective whole and not approaching it as a technology related intervention, though a major part of it could be technology related intervention. That means that bringing in all the stakeholders, bring them into it, because each stakeholder is having a part to play, and then formulate those aspects of how your role is changing with this new addition. So then you start looking at everybody's role changing, and everybody's role changing in full understanding of where we are going next is a worthwhile journey to take, and let's all do it. So you will be willingly embarking on something where it's different from what you used to do yesterday. You might have to upskill and reskill a little bit, or change a little bit of your behavioral patterns, and it will be much more wholesome when you get the whole group inside. And this also helps in solving the kinks, because every time our technology doesn't work properly, uh, it embarrasses us more than enough when times are not right, and that means that the
just now. I mean, could you
article
ever
more
expect a
because
Chrome
looking at
browser to? Could you ever expect a Chrome browser to misbehave and
and
create that kind of a problem?
and not only that, when you look at, okay, yes, you don't expect Chrome to misbehave, but also you're bringing healthcare and say, hey, do I need to experiment with this patient? You know what? Let's do it later. So
Yeah,
so that's where when you bring people together, you solve problems together, and such like unexpected, where it beats the norm. You don't expect it to function bad, but the fact is it is functioning bad. The fact is that it is deteriorated. It is not fit for production use or live patient care use, but still you need to make it happen. I think bring
absolutely.
people together, solve that problem, build that circle of trust, and build that ability to sustain that circle of trust. I think that's really change management. Not
Absolutely.
approaching it as one-upmanship is a wrong approach, I would say.
No, I would really take that takeaway. Build a circle of trust and build the capability to sustain the circle of trust. It's not a one-time thing. It has to be a continuous engagement. So my next question to you was on telehealth, and it has already come from Mohit Harbola. Again, a regular on ClarITea Chat. He says that teleconsulting saw a massive surge during COVID pandemic. Especially doctors in clinics saw unprecedented demand, and most of the discussions were held on WhatsApp video. So his question continues in the second comment. He says that will it sustain beyond the pandemic, and how can it be formalized beyond the WhatsApp videos? Are you taking any initiative on this? Now, I will add my question to it, Arvind. I think the telehealth is taking a different dimension. It's not just like I sitting in Mumbai consulting a doctor in Mumbai, but it's like somebody sitting in a village, being able to take a consultation from a doctor in Mumbai. So let's bring it all together and just talk to us about telehealth, and how do you multiply the capability of doctors. The doctor's time still continues to be a constraint. So what are the different dimensions, and what are the operations management aspects of it that you have to deal with from a technology point of view?
Uh, 2 years ago, I would have had to sell you my response. Okay. And you would have listened to me very patiently and said, the guy is energetic and he believes in something. 2 years later, you have tasted the art of possible. 2 years ago, when I told you teleconsulting, me inclusive, will say, great, Arvind, but I'll come to the doctor's office. Today, you have tasted the art of possible in the same quality and clinical effectiveness that actually caters to your health need in a mature manner without compromising anything. So we have proved it in shape, size, design, and execution. Yes, of course, we were all aided by a lockdown and a physical barrier of physical movement and physical geography constraints because of the world over lockdown. Uh, but the delivery mechanism is proven and the delivery mechanism is consumed also. So, do I expect to Harbola's question? Do I expect it to continue? Yes, definitely yes. Do I expect it to continue at the same rate as we've seen in the pandemic? Definitely no. Why? Because now you also got your physical geography opened up. So you will make choices between going physical and going virtual. And this is where I think we are going to start looking at mature principles of health delivery, where if a person need not necessarily visit, the doctor is also going to prescribe, if I may say so, come and see me virtually. Your condition does not require a physical appraisal. And that physical appraisal is going to save a lot of movement time and other physical inconveniences that could be caused to the patient, and the availability of the doctors also.
Yeah.
And it's not merely about only teleconsultation. Telehealth is a big subject by itself. You got teleradiology, telepathology, telecardiology, tele-ECG reads. You got telementored surgeries. You got EICUs where intensivists in one ICU are able to take care of patients in another ICU. So you got EICUs, and so the aspect of remote healthcare is is expanding, and it's expanding with the right elements of governance, right elements of delivery, the right mix of optimized technology. So I won't really call it WhatsApp. And the reason for I'm not going to call it WhatsApp, and the reason is bringing in those elements of security and privacy into a healthcare transaction that is required. So that aspect of maturity of security and privacy in a wholesome two-way or a multi-party conversation. I say multi-party because there could be three doctors, yourself and one of your family members also in a clinical consultation of certain nature. So uh, bringing in those elements of security and privacy in a bandwidth effective manner. I'll be careful not saying light or heavy, but effective because it's a clinical transaction and needs that power of bandwidth, and the governance of quality and the focus of automated clinical pathway guidelines so that the outcomes of clinical outcomes are not compromised. All this coming together, I expect remote health to further. What is the scale of it going to be? I think time is only going to tell us, but I definitely feel it's going to be much higher than what we used to experience 2 years before, because now the trust on it as a main stage element is much higher. Earlier, it was one of the minor players. Now we've all tasted it, we've all experienced it, and we are convinced that it's not frivolous. So,
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
where I would say it will be up, clearly it's
Yeah,
not going to be levels of the pandemic because obviously.
yeah. So I think fantastic conversation so far, Arvind. I mean, talking about right from telehealth to change management, partnering for it, to how to leverage SIs, to transforming the operations, when you were on the other side. Great conversation. I'm sure, we can keep talking, but we are just at the end of the hour. So Arvind, maybe another 5 minutes or so. So let's go into the rapid fire round. Okay.
Yep.
Now rapid fire means you have to like answer within 30 seconds each of the question. Okay.
Okay.
So since you talked about AI, now can AI become ASI and overtake humans like in fiction movies? Why or why not? Quick answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. This is healthcare, and you need a person practicing the art and science of medicine with as many able augmenting tools as possible. This is not about one overtaking the other, but partnering so that we are able to bring healthcare and quality healthcare, not running a science fiction movie.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you still require some judgment out there, right?
Yes.
Especially when these
Medicine
are
is an art and a science.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And what is Arvind in personal life? Hobbies, vacation favorites, and what kind of movies?
A little bit of a workaholic, but oriented towards Carnatic classical music.
Wow.
So most of time goes in that, and vacation spots. Being a workaholic, not very apt at it, but loved my Niagara Falls vacation and my Disney World vacation. So always my favorite. So look forward to any vacation of sorts whenever I'm able to do that.
And what kind of movies?
Uh, I fall asleep in any movie. So, so
Oh,
language and the type of movie really doesn't matter. I fall more often than not. I fall asleep.
okay. So I can probably assume it on your behalf. Rajni movies. And since you said you're a bit of a workaholic, I think I will give you a favorite vacation spot, Marina Beach.
All, always a Chennai guy.
Yes. Okay. So Arvind, you were well settled in US. Why move back to India?
Always my personal favorite in terms of what I'm comfortable with, culture, people, and my own beliefs and upbringing. So surroundings that are comfortable, that's what is India for me.
Yeah, sounds like me. And one thing healthcare CIOs and their teams should do better or differently.
Listen to business and not preach technology.
Awesome, awesome. You talked about it earlier. And your best mentor and one mentoring incident.
I think Jack Malloy, and he kind of taught me how to handle a very large database migration. Things were falling apart, and I think his best advice for me was how to keep my cool and work through the situation with the team, and then lose it on the team later for the lapses. But first, solve the problem in hand, and I think ever grateful and thankful to Jack Malloy for that.
Awesome, awesome. My last rapid fire question. A short explanation of, you mentioned somewhere, science of medicine and art of service.
I think this is something that is probably best put in by our own Apollo Hospital's philosophy of tender loving care. So, the art and science of medicine comes with compassion mixed with the effectiveness and efficacy of technology and the charm of the personal touch. Bring it all together, and then you have fantastic healthcare delivery.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is embodied by some of the doctors. So my son's pediatrician, this guy, whenever you go to him, he would basically refrain from, giving medicines. And his simple criteria was, he would say, is Mudit running around? Is he happy? Is he playing around? Yeah. And he said, but he has fever or he has dysentery. He said, he'll tell my wife, ma'am, it's creating problems for you, not for him. Okay. So his simple criteria was, if the boy is playing, if he's happy, he will not produce, he will not give any medicine. So I think we have those doctors, who would bring in that science, but deliver it with that art of service.
Absolutely,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah. So Arvind, yeah, we are down to the last one. So I call it the revenge question. I've been asking you questions all through. So your turn to ask me a question.
Why do you do this?
Not the first one to ask that question, though. Yeah. So one is that, okay, so I said something last time, so I'll be a little different this time. Of course, one is that, it always intrigued me as to why the success rate of of technology projects is so low, because I personally had a very high success rate. So I thought maybe I can contribute something. And when I thought about it, I figured out that there's so much more to technology than technology itself. And, why not we engage in those conversations with my fellow CIOs? Now, I have been meeting my CIO friends in the conferences. And, sometimes we have really joked about that, nobody in these conferences talks the real issues. And one of the real issues is finding success with technology. So I said, seems to be a white space. Nobody seems to be interested in it. I'm passionate about it. I have personal experiences in making, things successful. I've actually resurrected some dying programs as well. So why not just do this and maybe engage the community in the real, I would say, the business agenda of technology, which is guys, it's not about getting a UAT sign off. It's about making it work for business benefits. The other thing, of course, a very selfish one is, it allows me to know my fellow CIOs much closer rather than at the surface. And I really, really learn a lot of things from my fellow CIOs. So it's also a great learning experience for me. So it's fun, and yes, of course, I think it serves a purpose, because the kind of reactions we get from people looks like there is a need for this kind of a chat. So thank you, Arvind, for joining me on the ClarITea Chat today. Um, uh, to everyone out there, we'll be back next Saturday, yes, 19th February. Till then, goodbye and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
And thanks, Arvind, for coming here.
Pleasure.